Hey, people. I seen somebody spreading some rumors, some old schmuck doing some schmoing, about what the Bible says about girls wearing the cross between their big titties. And I'm fixing to set that straight. I'm reading it straight out the Hebrew Bible. So I want to start with Bass Vanderberg says, I need help with starting to read properly. Is there a course or a book which helps? And no, I've been doing this for 10 years or more, and I haven't found anything. I just try to read everything over 200 years old. You know, King James was written in 1611, and within 200 years after that, everybody turned into total morons. Nobody knew how to read the Hebrew anymore. And so I just try to read everything. Even when this was first written, you know, it was secret. And so where I began, I Googled the ancient letter chart, ancient picture letters, and studied the pictures first, and then studied the meaning of the pictures. And I just studied all of them, especially the ones where they compared several different languages and languages around the same times that were similar. I just studied every one of them. And I ended up with this one that I pulled off a Christian page, and it's because it had the most information that was handy. I could keep it with me at all times, and I just started breaking down every word I seen everywhere to see where the word come from, and study the picture meaning. And I used this because it was easy. He used his mouse, it looked like here, he tried to draw the old pictures, but after studying the pictures I could tell what they were, what they represented. And he had the Hebrew and the Latin style. And it had these meanings, you know, you see the B in the beginning of a word, it means in, and the E is the, and the Vav is and. And I study these meanings here, and I ignored this. I don't even look in there. I didn't believe in the spiritual part when I started this. It was just kind of something you figure out later as you see the genius of the writing. But I just studied the noun and the adjective and the verb part of the meanings of the words. I just kept this with me, and I started breaking down every word every day until I saw that most of the English breaks down and can be read with this ancient letter meaning chart. And I assumed that from the beginning. I figured that my ancestors must be doing something over thousands of years. If they believe their God wrote this, they must be learning to read it by now. And so I just made a paper copy of this and kept it with me everywhere I went, you know, and mainly just so when I looked at the Hebrew, I could remember what that letter was, what picture, what's that supposed to represent. Because there's so many in the Hebrew, they're really similar. The D and the R, and the B and the K, and the E and the H and the T. You really have to look closely. And then after that, I just started reading. Like Toph says, read it 100 times. Just read it and catch the phrases in there. And I figured out you don't have to get every word. You know, read it 100 times, and even when you think you got it, you know, read it again. I mean, but the word that saw Isaiah, son of Amuz, you know, is been a mux, A-M-U-X. And so the word he saw has been twisted. And just keep reading till you see phrases in there. And always check the meaning of names. They're not always there. They say strong, but you know, that's a mux. Been run amucks. Up to no good. Been amucks. Been up to no good is Isaiah the son of Amux. So under that question I left you a link here, and this is to the Start movie. The most recent Start one I did, called The Best Place to Start Reading. But if you've been watching my channel, you know this is a learning process, and I started making these videos looking for help, you know, because it was a mountain when I first looked at it. It's been a huge mountain. I'm on top now, and I'm going to show you who else is on top. But the main thing is, you know, if you heard the Christian story, if it made sense to you, you'll never be able to figure this out. You have to see there's a problem with the Christian story before you can learn to read this. But, you know, the house of God is on top of the mountains, aka the brazier. The brazirum winds give out. The brazirum winds give out. that means her titties so big she broke her bra. And that's where the house of God is. So it helps if you have the same mindset as God. And so that's where God says He likes to be. He likes to be right there in the valley between the mountains. And you see that right here, and from gave out. And near a valley. The V-A-L-Y, valley. And when it snows on top of the mountain, and it melts, that's where it goes. It's when near the valley, where He likes to be, right there in that valley, where the brazier winds gave out between the big old titties. God loves you to wear your cross between your big old titties, And so that's what really helped, is I got the same mindset as God. I like big old titties too. We think alike, and that really helps me to be able to read this. So I'll be making another beginning video sometime in the future. That one's over 3 years old, and like I say, it's been a learning process. I learn things all the time. Just the past couple of weeks, I've learned a couple other letter combinations that aren't what they appear. The mem is the name of this letter, the letter M, which is actually means water, which was the letter N in Egypt. So when you see mem, I replace it with the N. And many other reading secrets that I just figured out by seeing patterns and trying. But when somebody comes over to your house, it's because you invite, V-I-T. You have invite them. A B-B-I-T is to invite. And the reason they come is because they are welcome. The W-E-L-C-U and the O-M-I-M. So it almost fools you into saying welcome. But this is actually the ones who, the Jews showed up, the Welsh. And the real Jews are the Welsh. They're all Scandinavian. You see all through the Bible it tells where they come from. They're the English speakers. And, some of them welcome and some of them Welsh on, O-N. And you'll see this word, the base word is L-K. That's a come, and it's where your word walk and talk and all that comes from. Without this M here that they make this plural, it's a homie. And that's your people is your homie. So if you was to remove this M, it would say, the well come. And who's welcome and shall come, homies, my people. But if you're Jewish, they're probably going to welch on you. And so remind me if I forget, I'll leave the link to that start movie on the bottom. And I mainly just go over the letter chart and meanings and things I've learned. But like I say, it's 3 years old. I've learned a lot since then. So I used to go back in all my movies and try to explain everything. I found out I can't. I'm spending too much time trying to explain everything that's changed. And so I kind of make my movies for the people who've been watching me for a while and understand these things, and I get more information out. But yeah, it's not made for everybody to be able to read. It's just for 1 in 10,000 maybe should be able to read this. And so what brought me here is Isaiah 2. Isaiah, this is the most English book you're going to find in the Bible. It's the easiest. It's the only one where they actually spell Lord, L-O-R-D. And it was down at the bottom here. It comes up twice. It's only 3 times in the entire Bible spelled like that. And so I had to come up to the top and read to see what this was about. But that's what it's saying is been amongst, and I-S-O-I is the E. I-C-E-U is who? I see who been amongst. I see who's been up to no good. The word that saw, I see who's been up to no good. All you of a rustle, cattle rustlers. This is stealing people. These are all rustling slaves. The rustle. And then this next line plainly says that there was a queen in the works that she was written out of in later the days, and it shall come to pass in later the days that the back right, B-A-C-H, back back, R-I-T-E, the right, and then I and N, back written. They left a space, so they go back and change the writings later. So that's what Isaiah is saying here, which Isaiah is just a pen name, means I see who. And that's what they'll say this word means, is a seer, prophecy. Not necessarily seeing with your eye, but realizing what the hell's going on. I see. Oh, I is an E. I see who been amongst. All you would, I named him Judah because praise, to appraise, to give a value of Ruslam, the slaves. And Vey, V-E-Y-E, to see. And this has more meanings with this mark here. And like I say, there's nowhere else in the world to learn. It's just something I've figured out. The first time I seen this was the easiest one. It's as tall as any of the other letters. And if you were walking down the passageway reading this and you come up to this, there's nowhere to go but back the way you came. So you come back and read it backwards and then read this way again. And that just shows, how genius the writings were. But it also tells me, these writings, that somebody had wrote this on the bathroom wall long ago, and somebody had come back and added things to change the meanings later that were humorous. And so you could tell that most of the Bible was written with all the directional placements already. The final language with all the points was already discovered, and this was all written in this fashion. These first writings look like this. They didn't have, it was just 22 letters here. They didn't have all the marks. You knew that A words read backwards from writings in Egypt. And then they later discovered that we could twist the meanings, because they wrote forwards and backwards, and they learned to recognize words that read backwards. And so they used these words a lot. They twisted the spellings. And they changed double letters to read different ways to make the words read different in this alchemical poetry. But yeah, the first writing was like this, but before the Bible was ever put together, that final block style and all the dots was all invented. And they, and saw, and it's also, the way, and then the E is a they, and way high. You backrit in. And Nikon, the victory, the whoever won, Nikon, victor, the victor, writes this history. History is written by the victor. And the way back written, the victor. Yea, to let be her, H, the double E, reading as a her. In it, you, the brazirum, when give out. When too much titties for your bra, and gives out, when here valley, and shall flow to it, it flows to the valley, V, and near, that's the word they'll give the river. And actually the N followed by the E is the V, and so when it's river it's just the N-E-R, but it'll be attack here, it reads backwards, and so it becomes a R-E-V-E-R, the river. And so the near is of V-E-R, of her valley, and from gave out of her valley. And call the jug, G-U-J, the juggum. She got the big old the jugs. The I-M they say is plural. The jugs. Call the jugs. They see the back written Nicken, the victor. Yea, I would like her, H-H-H-I-R, and like her, invite you. And I would like her to in it, to call me in, invite you. The brazier Winsome give out of her valley, V-A-L-Y, the valley, call. This is where your word yoga comes from. The text tells you to read this backwards from Y-U-G-E. That's where your word yoga comes from. And it means the jugular. It means the yoke. And my yoke, I like them big old titties. I'm going to be yoked up right up in between there. From give out of her valley and call an edge, and the W-Y is who, and this is whom. So this word reads a bunch of different ways, in the college, to bring a bunch together, a college home. And backwards is M from jug, J-U-G, the jug, E-G, the juggage home, from the one with the big titties, from juggage home. And so he's calling up, his college, his colleagues, they're all into the titties too. They all like the titties. And that's who's going to be able to read this. Not a bunch of Christians are not going to be able to get this. Only, the house of the Lord to invite you, the brazier, winsome give out of her valley a collegium. And so there's just so much information just in one line. If you stop and read all the different ways it reads with the directional markings, it just blows your mind. But, the W-E-L-C, is where your word welcome. It's on your welcome mat. And shall come, if you have a welcome mat, they'll come. And you look at this word, it comes up. It's spelled many, many different ways. But the LK is the base to it, and it can be spelled many different ways, as long as it has the LK in here. Here's a good basis, this ALK, and you can put, if you walk is and we'll go, walk. But it's also the ELK, just mainly anything with the LK in it, with many other letter combinations that all go in this will go. And sometimes they'll put just the plain LK in there, which is, they'll give this many meanings. They won't give it a number most of the time. They'll say it means you. But just many words with the LK. And when you get down to the ands, they'll all start with the vav or the u. This is walk. And down here, the same thing. It's the same vav. And this way your word, you find walk and welch. And wilk, whilst. Whilst is when you go away, when you're shrinking away, to whilst over the horizon. And this will be Welsh here. But, walk is an ancient word written by the oldest of the writers. The walk, the W-A-L-K. The walk is in go. May go. Yeah, walk. Get on out of here. And so I just read everything and I look for twists in letters that'll have different sounds. But you see the biggest word in the Bible is walk. 100, 200, 300 different ways to write walk. So I got somewhere around 800-900 movies up. If you go all the way back to the first ones, you'll see a documentation of me trying to figure this out. So it's really the only place that I know of, but it's going to be really slow. You're going to be thousands of hours watching my trials and errors as I try to figure this out. When I started reading, I just noticed that they were blatantly trying to cover up the language. I could see many words that were plain English, and they were trying to go around other ways of interpreting them and trying to hide that the ancient writers wrote in English. And tricks that I learned from reading this, I tried them on the Greek, and more the tricks that I learned from reading the Greek. There's a lot of diphthongs, double letters that have a different letter meaning, different letter sound, that I've put back on the Hebrew, and that's helped me to learn more about the Hebrew. And now I use the same thing. I'm trying to read the Latin to see what's going on with that. And I use some of the same tricks on the Latin. And if you want to learn more about the Egyptian There's a book, The First Steps in Egyptian Hieroglyphs. I keep it up here on this tab. I go to it often. I was Googling something, and it's come up in Google Books. So it's got free samples, and I think I bought the book, and it doesn't come up near the quality. It's harder to search. I think maybe $7 for the book. And when I'm searching, I go to this Wikipedia page of hieroglyphs. And I just use this for a tool. I don't take anybody's word for anything. I haven't found anybody who understands any of this yet. And the people that ask, why don't I write a book? I can't. It's not about the spellings. It's about the pronunciations that I'm trying to show. The book's already written. All you have to do is learn to understand the symbol meanings. They're not letters. They're symbol meanings. And this is letters down here. These were all designed for a certain people to be able to pronounce these words and understand them. But this ancient writing was designed more for everybody to understand. And it seems the English understood it best, and their language evolved from it. And I'm going to cut this off here. Good day.